Hello class, this is my challenge video on absolute value. Really it shouldn't be a challenge, this is ideally something you've seen before, but if you have not, it's not really something I will have time to talk about in the scope of this class with all the computer science and stuff. So if you're pushing for math, you should definitely be trying to learn some stuff like this to get that extra depth. So absolute value. Overall, what does absolute value mean? Absolute value is just talking about how far is it from zero. We use these two bars to represent that we want to know the absolute value of that number. So we are really asking how far is negative 10 from 0? It's 10 steps from 0. How far is positive 10 from 0? It's also positive 10 steps from 0. So overall, just how far on the number line are you? Same absolute value. Same absolute value from 10, negative 10. So when we see it in equations, the first one you might see is a basic like absolute value of x equals a number. When you do this, you're going to solve for that positive answer, because if I had a negative 3 in here, that would be correct, or if I had a positive 3, that would be correct. So I want to solve for those two situations. Positive 3, negative 3, equals negative 3, and I get two answers here. So when you're doing absolute value equations, I'll be able to explain more depth of it, but for now, we're going to have positive numbers on the right side. We are going to solve for both answers. So if I have something like this, absolute value of x plus 1 equals 3, I'm going to split it, x plus 1 equals 3, and then I also want to solve for my negative answer, x plus 1 equals negative 3. When I do that, I could solve both answers individually and get x equals 2, x equals negative 4. This is the basics of absolute value. Now let's do one that's got a little bit more to it. So I might have an absolute value that has numbers outside of my bars even. So let's say I have something like this. Equals, let's not make it too insane, let's just make it a 2 here. So if my absolute value bars aren't by themselves already, I can't make my positive and my negative equation. I've got to get the bars by itself first. So isolate bars. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides, balancing. If you're watching this video, ideally that's not too big of a deal for you. Then I still have this in absolute value bars. I add those up and get a 9. And once they're by themselves, now I can make two equations. 2x minus 1 equals 9. Positive equation. And then 2x minus 1 equals negative 9. So see, I make my positive equation here because I want, if I have a 9 inside of this bracket, it would be an answer. Then I figure out how I can make a negative 9 inside of this bracket because that would also be an acceptable answer. Once I'm here, I'm just balancing. 2x equals 10, divide out, x equals 5. Same steps. Also, even though you have two problems here, I have the same steps. Both I'm adding 1 to both sides, both I'm dividing by 2 to both sides. Here I'm getting x equals negative 4. So I get my two answers, negative 4 and 5. So basic example, you got to make a positive and a negative. So no matter what, we're making a positive and a negative. Make a positive and a negative answer, and then you solve both with the same steps. But that's only after you make sure that you isolate your bars first. Sorry, this should be first. Then once you isolate your bars, then you're going to make your positive and negative answer, and then you're going to solve both equations. I could clean this video up, but for now, we're just going to leave it at that.